Good morning. Happy Friday. I have Neuro Coffee in hand. And yes, it is perfect. Okay. A busy Friday. Very excited. Lots of things to do today. Lots of people to talk to, which is always exciting. So yeah, this whole situation has just provided opportunities galore. So I'm trying to take full advantage of it anyway, and I hope you guys are too. Getting some good work done, maybe getting some studying done, maybe working on some relationships perhaps that you haven't been able to do. So please take advantage of this opportunity. I got a message from Charlie Reed. Charlie is an amazing coach. I suggest you look him up. I think he is at charliereedfitness.com. So go check him out. He's also an amazing guitar player, but that's beside the point. I'm just jealous about that part. But Charlie sent me a message this morning and hit on a topic that I'm very fond of, and I think that everybody works from some sort of model, but I think that clarifying that model on a regular basis is really important. And so one of the ways that you want to do that is by literally drawing out your model so you can actually visualize it, see it, and identify where you might have weaknesses or gaps or where you need to develop an aspect of it. And I've tried many different ways to do this. And so I'm a paper guy. I'm a paper and pen guy. So I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's a representative of one of my maps. I got two cameras going here, so bear with me. But Charlie's a tech guy, and he says, hey, I appreciate that whole analog approach to the whole thing, but there's those of us that want to use something that's a little bit more technical. And so Charlie mentioned some apps that I wanted to throw out for you. Charlie mentioned XMind and Mindomo. I have not used these, but they look very similar to a lot of the other mind mapping software. I have used MindJet in the past, and so I was talking with Mike Russell this morning, and he mentioned MindJet as well. So he still uses that. They're all useful. There's always a bit of a learning curve whenever you're learning a new app, but all of these are very similar in structure from what I can tell. I'm not an app guy. If you are an app guy, though, XMind, Mindomo, and MindJet would be the three that have come recommended to me from other people. So try those out. So if you're more of a technical person, go there. But regardless, draw out your models. Draw out your models, because it will, like I said, it will help you identify the gaps, the weaknesses, and it will refine your thought processes. And the more effective that you can be in that regard, the more successful you'll be with your interventions and your outcomes. It'll help you narrow the probabilities of what you're working with, because we are in the gray, we are in complexity, and we have to have a representative model. The better your model, the better you're going to be. Okay, I got a question from Reggie. So Reggie is asking specifically for a quarantine edition workout for wide ISAs. I thought this was kind of a neat little question, because it allows us to go through some thought process and then some recommendations as well. And so Reggie gives me a limited array of equipment that he's kind of stuck with at home, and he's looking for activities that will help him expand posterior lower thorax and upper thorax. So when we're looking at a wide ISA, one of the earlier compensatory strategies after the compensatory inhalation against the exhaled axial skeleton will be that the upper dorsal rostral. So the upper back area will compress. That's going to follow in a sequence. If you're dealing with a wide ISA that has compression below the level of scapula, so posterior lower rib cage, posterior lower pelvis, then you are much deeper into the compensatory strategies. So we have to be a little bit more selective in regards to our activities. So let's borrow some information from the quadruped research. And if you look at the way quadrupeds weight bear when they're in single leg stance versus double leg stance, in a double leg stance quadrupedal position, what you're going to look at is you're going to see the compressive strategies that we talk about with wide ISAs show up there. When they go to single leg stance, The support leg still shows the compressive strategy, but we get expansion on the opposing side. So that's why we have this recommendation, generally speaking, that wide ISA should typically avoid bilateral symmetrical exercises because it reinforces the compressive strategies. So right away, we take anything that looks the same on both sides off the table. The first rule of decision making is don't do stupid things. And so we want to eliminate interference. So anything that we do bilaterally that is symmetrical is going to be a big question mark in regards to training a wide ISA if the goal is to recapture our movement options. Now, if we're going to do something unilateral, then we got a lot of choices here. We've got all sorts of one-armed activities. Now, the thing that we're going to have to be concerned with is we want to reinforce the ability to turn, which means we have compressive and expansive strategies to deal with here. So if I was to perform, say, a one-arm dumbbell press, like a floor press, and I compressed both shoulders into the floor, as you typically would say for a bench press if you were doing it with a bar, then even if I'm pressing with one arm, I'm still using the bilateral symmetrical strategy. So I want to start thinking about more of a reaching type of activity to finish my press. If I'm going to think about pulling activities, I'm going to think about maintaining posterior expansion as I pull on the pulling side. So the nice way that I can induce that is with staggered stances or asymmetrical stances or split stances. So right away, I'm eliminating the influence of that bilateral symmetrical strategy. So Reggie, keep that in mind. If you look at some of the videos that I posted, I believe I did a glute bridge alternating press, which is very, very useful because it is asymmetrical. It's also inverted, so you get your posterior lower rib cage expansion, posterior lower pelvic expansion under those circumstances, which is great. And then I think yesterday I posted an asymmetrical push-up. So again, if I use an offset orientation where I have, say in a push-up, I have one hand elevated versus the other hand on the floor, then I've also created that turning strategy that becomes very, very useful for wide ISAs. Anything in a side support position, also very useful for wide ISAs because I get compression on one side, expansion on the other, and I also get an anterior posterior expansion. So when you're talking about the compression in the upper dorsal rostral area and even the anterior compression, when I'm in that side support position, like a side bridge, a side plank, a T push-up variation may also be useful. An arm bar where you're rolling into the side lying position, also very useful under those circumstances to create the anterior posterior expansion, the unilateral compressive strategy, and then the unilateral expansive strategy. So Reggie, I hope that gives you some suggestions and some ideas. Draw out your models. Have a great Friday. I'm going to finish my coffee and then I'm going to go grab a workout. You guys have a great weekend.